Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Sky here for AirShowVid.com. And behind me, you can see one of the most iconic, interesting aircraft of all of World War II. As we look behind us and see one of the many planes of the Collings Foundation, this particular aircraft, the beautiful P-51 Mustang known as Betty Jane. We're here at Marana Airport here today to talk all about the wonders of what's happening here with the Collings Foundation. And ladies and gentlemen, this is all about living history, what you're about to see in this particular video today. So come join us and learn much more about the Collings Foundation here live. As you can see behind me, one of the most impressive airplanes of World War II, the beautiful P-51 Mustang. You know, folks, it's amazing here, learning so much about aviation here with the Collings Foundation. I'm here now with Chief Pilot Jim Harley talking about these wonderful aircraft, the B-24J, the B-17G, and of course, the P-51C. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Well, I want to personally thank you. You know, folks, we were up the other day in the B-24, flying from Deer Valley Airport in central Phoenix all the way down to Casa Grande, Arizona. And that was an amazing experience. I mean, I actually got to climb into the back of the aircraft to experience what I thought was an amazing piece of history. How did those pilots endure, and how long were some of those missions?
It was tough. Not only were they fighting the enemy, they were fighting the elements. They were up at 28,000 feet where it was 40 to 60 below zero. There was no heat in those airplanes. They had the wool flight suits and the sheep shearling jackets and rudimentary little heated flying suits, but it was tough. They didn't move around once they were in their combat positions.
And Jim, for the audience to know this, I think this is so important. The average age of some of these pilots, I think, will amaze many of the people watching.
21?
That is amazing.
21 was old.
21 was old. You know, on the sad side of the whole equation, we saw thousands of these aircraft, the B-24s, the B-17s, go into combat. What was the loss or the ratio of those that have flown these missions and that have come back? I understand they had some tremendous losses.
The 8th Air Force alone lost more guys than any other service in their service branch in the military, and they were 35,000 guys. Just incredible losses. One airplane goes down, that's 10 guys. You know, that's incredible by today's numbers, but that's what they were up against.
So, folks, you're learning more as we're standing here talking about the Wings of Freedom Tour with, of course, the Collings Foundation. And Jim Harley's here today as our special guest, as many special guests on this show, as you'll see and hear from today. But tell us in your own words, sir, what is the meaning behind living history to you?
They've been touring these airplanes over 20 years, and the idea is that if you have to drive to a museum to look at a static airplane, that's as close as you're going to get. We bring the airplanes to the people, to your town. We offer flight experiences in them for a donation that's tax deductible. We'll take you up, fly you around in the airplane, and it's unlike any other museum in the world, and we're about the only ones doing it nowadays, and our goal is to keep it going to honor the veterans and make sure people don't forget what happened 70 years ago.
That's amazing stuff. You know, it's so sad that, again, so many of these particular individuals perished in support of freedom. As we all know, freedom's not free. And ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing living history here on this particular television show today. And again, I want to thank all the good folks at the Collings Foundation. Visit the Collings Foundation at www.collingsfoundation.org. Thank you so much, Jim Harley.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Folks, you've seen this beautiful P-51C many times, and you'll see it throughout this whole presentation. But let's talk with one of the pilots of the beautiful P-51C, the Betty Jane. With me today is Pat McGarry. Pat, welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
You know, it's so amazing. We were talking off air about what you do in civilian, the civilian part of aviation as a commercial airline pilot. Talk to us a little bit about the transition. I mean, they're obviously both aircraft. One, of course, great history, and the other one, modern airliner. Describe to us a little bit about your background and what got you interested in aviation.
I grew up working at Chino Airport in Southern California. That's how I kind of got into the warbird thing, and always had a love for the warbirds and that sort of thing. But my career kind of took me into the airlines, and as I progressed, I was able to keep my hand in flying some old airplanes, and eventually worked into flying the Mustang with Collings Foundation.
It's an amazing airplane, and you know, folks, many folks out there, young boys, young girls, you've built models of these particular these particular aircraft. But let's hear it from the pilot seat. I mean, describe what it's like to fly this airplane. I understand it's a V12 Merlin engine as the power plant?
It is. It's a fantastic engine. The airplane has got such a great reputation because it's such a great airplane. It's what they call a pilot's airplane, just a dream to fly. It really is. And it's why they liked it in the war and why they were so desirable after the war and why there's so many around now, because it's just a great airplane to fly. It's very nice on the controls, great engine. The Rolls-Royce Merlin is fantastic, powerful and smooth, and just an incredible airplane to fly.
You know, Pat's going to know that this is an important question. I want to ask it. A little bit of history, Pat, about this particular aircraft. Where did it come from? How did Collings get it going? And was there a whole big restoration on this plane, or was it all ready to go?
Yeah, there was. This aircraft was built out of parts from a wreckage. The original aircraft crashed in 1943 in World War II, and they recovered the parts. It was rebuilt in the 1990s, an extensive restoration. You know, it's virtually a new airplane. Collings got it here a few years back and put it on tour, and we've been out flying it quite a bit, showing it to everyone that wants to come out and see it.
Describe to us the Wings of Freedom tour, because I understand this is the 23rd season. Now that says a lot. That's almost a whole generation. Describe what the tour is and where you go from here.
The tour is great. It's such a neat thing. Besides flying the airplanes, it's such a great thing to be involved with. 110 cities over 10 months. These airplanes live on the road. They bring their own maintenance crews. The pilots are all volunteers. We come out and fly. I'll come out and fly for a couple weeks at a time. But basically starts out January in Florida and travels across the south, kind of chasing the good weather, although it's a bit hot here. Flies across the south, gets to Southern California here in another week or so. Heads north, and in about June they're up in the Seattle area, and then they head east again and back into the Northeast. So 10 months of going around the country and showing the airplanes off.
What's it like flying this particular aircraft? I mean, I've seen pictures. I know some folks that have been fortunate enough to get that backseat ride, but describe to us, when we see these aircraft like at this particular show, how fast are you able to fly? What's some of the speeds that this particular aircraft has attained, let's say during World War II as a fighter escort?
We typically run it, we baby the engine, because we're getting, we use it a lot. We're getting about 1,000 hours out of each engine, which is great. That's fantastic. And so we run it real conservatively, running reduced power on takeoff, still enough to get the thrill and the, put you back in your seat. But, we kind of take care of it. So we're running cross country, 220 knots indicated, works out to about 250 knots, which is still respectable in whatever you're in.
Absolutely.
And not running it near as hard as they would potentially in World War II. But it's a great airplane. So 250 going cross country and land at about 120 knots. This is the earlier model, got a little thinner wing, actually comes in to land a little faster. And,
it's an amazing airplane.
Yeah.
Pat McGarry, thank you so much, sir, for being part of this particular show.
Great to talk to you.
And folks, learn more about all these wonderful aircraft, the Wings of Freedom Tour. As Pat said, better than I can ever say it, because he is part of the living history as a pilot. These particular aircraft, of course, flying all over the country. Again, commemorating the living history of those that served America. And again, a proud salute to all the men and women who serve proudly in our American military. Learn more about this particular organization, the Collings Foundation, by going to www.collingsfoundation.org. Behind me, folks, one of the most amazing aircraft of all time, at least in Dr. Sky's opinion and the opinion of many others, the beautiful B-17G. Here now to talk about living history and the pilot of the B-17G. The 909 is Mac McCauley. Mac, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, really.
You know, it's a real amazing moment for me, and I'm sure the viewers, to be able to talk about this particular aircraft as you celebrate the 23rd season, I understand, of the Collings Foundation Wings of Freedom Tour. Describe this beautiful airplane behind us.
This airplane was manufactured it was first designed in 1934. It was manufactured starting in 1937 and all through the war. It was probably the most famous airplane in World War II for the simple reason that it was the most durable airplane in World War II. It was a strategic bomber, and that and the 24 were responsible for bombing the infrastructure of Germany and the Axis countries during the war. That particular airplane is painted up like the 909, 8th Air Force, 91st Bomb Group. It was the most famous airplane in the 8th Air Force. It had 140 missions and never had an abort, never missed a target, and never had a casualty, and 140 times out and back. That's why we honor it with that paint job. This particular airplane was manufactured in Long Beach by Douglas. Douglas manufactured them, Lockheed manufactured them, of course Boeing obviously did. Like I say, this particular airplane was manufactured in Long Beach by Douglas, and I actually met the lady when we were doing the stop in Long Beach that did the front end of that airplane.
That's amazing.
Really.
That's incredible stuff. And you know, folks, as you can find this particular organization all over the web, www.collingsfoundation.org, to learn so much more. And describe to us, we're here in Marana, Arizona, a beautiful day, a beautiful airport. Where does the Wings of Freedom Tour go now from here? And describe a little bit about the rest of the year.
Well, right now we're heading for the West Coast. We'll be in San Diego, and we'll be going through California and the West Coast, up through Oregon and up through Seattle. It takes about 2 months for us to do that. And then we start heading towards the East Coast, and we'll end up in Florida back in November, in about 6 months.
It's amazing. We wish Godspeed to the flight and the crew, and of course all the passengers that can come and see this beautiful piece of living history with the Collings Foundation. Mac McCauley, thank you so much, sir, for being part of the show today. And again, I really salute you and all the veterans, of course, out there. Living history is so important here. I met a gentleman the other day, 93 years old, up in Deer Valley. How many of those folks, I mean, you don't have an exact number, but very few are still around.
Very, very few are still around, and they're so precious, because when Tom Brokaw said they were the greatest generation, if you've ever talked to any of these people, he was dead right, really. They're so gracious, they're so humble, and we're actually getting to see more of them because their families are insisting that they come out now and see the airplanes for one last time, and a lot of them are going for flights with us. We take an awful lot of veterans up, and that's what, we're all sitting there with tears on our eyes when we can do that. It's very important that we do keep history alive in that way.
Mac McCauley says it so well, ladies and gentlemen. Come out and see the beautiful airplanes of the Collings Foundation, the B-17G, the B-24J, and of course the beautiful, as you've seen before on this particular show, the beautiful P-51C, the Betty Jane, and so many other aircraft coming from the Collings Foundation at www.collingsfoundation.org.